integrally, solemnly swear
to exercise in all loyalty, discretion and conscience
the functions entrusted to me
as Secretary General of the United Nations,
to discharge these functions and regulate my conduct
وفي أداء عملي سوى مصالح الأمم المتحدة وحدها
and not to seek or accept instructions
in regard to the performance of my duties
from any government
or
other authority external to the organization.
大家好，欢迎收看最新一期《谁是下一任秘书长》专题节目。在第一期节目当中呢，我们谈到了遴选联合国秘书长的历史沿革和未来展望，而且还给自己挖了一个坑。那么下一次节目，我们将从女性候选人的角度为大家继续带来选情观察。这不，我们现在就来填坑了。这期节目我们要跟一位重量级嘉宾展开对话。他曾执掌联合国教科文组织，在文化、教育、科学的全球战场上推动进步。他经历过国际合作的巅峰与低谷，更曾在最高权力场合为性别平等握紧话筒。今天呢，我们不谈外交辞令，只谈真实的声音，一起来听一听他的坦诚分享，关于女性领导力的隐形门槛。关于历史此刻的关键抉择，以及那个许多人不敢问的问题，我们准备好迎接一位女性秘书长了吗？首先，我们还是用一个短片来认识一下她。
伊琳娜·博科娃，保加利亚人，从外交新星到全球领袖，她的成长轨迹就是一部推动多边合作的硬核奋斗史。2009年，她成为联合国教科文组织首位女性掌舵者。2011年，她顶住巨大压力，推动巴勒斯坦首次以成员国身份加入联合国机构。在担任教科文组织总干事的8年时间里，博科娃坚定不移地在全球议程中推进优质教育和性别平等，并于2015年同中国共同设立了女童和妇女教育奖。她还旗帜鲜明地反对极端主义者对文化遗产的蓄意破坏，让这些饱经风霜的人类历史见证成为连接不同文明的桥梁，推动世界携手前行。
Madam Bokova, it's such a great honor to have this conversation with you. You are no stranger to me personally, and you are no stranger to the UN system. One of the highlights is that in the 2016 race for UN Secretary General, in that campaign, like more than half of the official candidates were women, while eventually no female Secretary General was selected. So reflecting on that experience, what were the most significant personal and professional lessons you have learned from the campaign?
Well, first of all, thank you for this invitation, and thank you also for your question. Indeed, in 2016, I think there are a lot of lessons learned. First, let me say that already it was a big progress, a big achievement that so many women were proposed, because we know that in the history of the United Nations, there were only 8 women candidates. And 7 of them were candidates in 2016. But I believe that nowadays it's the time not just to look back, not to complain, but rather to mobilize, to pass a very strong message to the United Nations, to the international community, that it is time to elect a woman. And it is not just because of some kind of a historic justice, but because I do believe that the United Nations will become more inclusive, more relevant to what is needed nowadays in the world.
Sure, I get your message. And you have also said that 2016 campaign was an achievement to some extent. Well, despite the result, we saw that the 2016 process was held as the most transparent ever, with like the public dialogues and straw poll results. Do you believe this so-called transparency genuinely leveled the playing field for all candidates, particularly women? And what further reforms are needed in the selection process?
Well, I believe indeed that it was a very transparent process for the first time. And I have to congratulate the president at that time of the General Assembly of the Security Council. Indeed, it gave the opportunity to engage with the wider public. It is, of course, membership and governments that decide. But at the end of the day, United Nations is bigger than that. And I believe it was really a very good process. But still, there are some structural barriers. There is some stereotyping. There is some kind of not full confidence in the fact that a woman can lead the United Nations. It's not just about the United Nations. We see globally that women leaders, women in politics still confront a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. And that is why I think change is not coming very easy. We know that, transforming societal mentality. And if I may open here a bracket, also adding to your question, it is not exactly the, I would say, competition or a juxtaposition, contradiction between merit, as I said, and justice and leadership. We know that there are very, very women that are competent, that are capable for this post. I think they have to be given the opportunity to compete, but also they have to be judged like men on their merit. I think this is very important.
Yes, indeed. And also following the 2016 selection, you co-founded GWL Voices. This is an organization of nearly 80 global women leaders advocating for a gender equal international system. So what was the catalyst for creating this network? And how does it aim to change the conversation in a way that previous efforts have not?
The idea to establish such an organization like Global Women Leaders was triggered by, I believe, by two major considerations. First, let me say that the three founders, my dear friends and former colleagues from the United Nations system, with whom I worked very closely, even before the selection process for the Secretary General, Helen Clark, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand and UNDP administrator, Susanna Malcorra, the Chief of Staff of the then Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, and former Foreign Minister of Argentina. We three were candidates for this post. We were competing, we were friends, we showed a great respect towards each other, and none of us got the job, so to say, and none of the other women that were competing. So I believe that this encouraged us also to support this process, to continue advocating for a woman Secretary General, and also to support other women, other candidates, and to encourage governments to propose women candidates in the future. The second consideration was the gradual process of undermining the multilateral system. And that is why we thought that by convening this broad array of former colleague women that were occupying high positions in the United Nations, it was important also to support multilateralism. And why we decided this? Because multilateralism and the United Nations has given so much to us women in the world. In terms of inclusion of legal rights, of fighting gender imbalances, of fighting and denouncing violence against women, of inclusion women in political decision-making positions, women in science, women in education, and I can continue this very long list. We just cannot afford to let multilateralism go down. We want to support it, and we want to support equally the agenda of empowering women within the United Nations system.
You have mentioned that the weakening of multilateralism really sends a very dangerous signal to everybody. I want to recall a similar circumstances in 2017. At that time, as Director General of UNESCO, you received the U.S. notification of withdrawal, calling it a loss for multilateralism. And nowadays, an even wider multilateral system is facing the same challenge. So based on your experience steering UNESCO through that crisis, what are the key reforms or shifts in approach needed to make multilateral institutions more resilient, relevant, and capable of delivering tangible results that keep member states engaged?
Indeed. In 2017, it was the last year before I stepped down as Director General of UNESCO. Just literally some days before that, I received the notification of the withdrawal of the United States. Now, we see indeed nowadays that United Nations multilateralism is undermined. We see big shifts in the world, geopolitical shifts. We see also some other challenges against the background, climate change, inequalities on the rise, sometimes lack of dialogue, lack of diplomacy, I would say. And we need once again to take a step back and to see what should we do. And the Summit of the Future that took place a year and a half ago under the initiative of Secretary General Antonio Guterres took a very important decisions. The Pact of the Future, actually, I think to a very large extent shows the way forward. Where we should put resources, where we should look more deeper into international cooperation. I have in mind the Digital Compact that was also adopted. And I would like to mention here that there were a lot of positive responses to the Pact for the Future. By the way, one of the responses came from China, I would say a very strong response, with the Global Governance Initiative that President Xi Jinping launched. And I think what was very important in this initiative, apart from all the other elements, was that he put a very strong emphasis on people's well-being. This impressed me, and I think this is exactly what the Pact for the Future and the United Nations are all about. Of course, this built on other initiatives of President Xi. For me, as a former Director General of UNESCO, one of President Xi's initiative, of course, that resonates deeply with me is the Global Civilization Initiative. And I think this is also something that is relevant to the United Nations. Now, then, of course, we have the reform agenda proposed by the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, UN at 80. There is definitely a need for reform. Nobody denies it. Times are different. It is not like it used to be 8 years ago. There is a need for adapting, for adjusting mandates, looking at better coordination among the UN system. But this does not mean that we just have to stop believing and supporting multilateralism. I think just on the contrary, because of that, we need more multilateralism, more United Nations, better adapted to the common challenges, and better, I would say, responding to people's needs around the world.
It is under this kind of complex circumstances that we've seen that the next Secretary General selection is approaching, while the campaign for women to lead the UN continues. So in your view, what is the most viable pathway right now to achieving this historic first?
it's a good opportunity in 26, and I am much more confident that this year member states will take seriously this issue of having a woman Secretary General. Actually, we have launched the campaign, Madam Secretary General, for a long time. We are advocating with member states. I think the first step, of course, is to submit candidates. This is important, of course. Respecting the geographical distribution and balance within the United Nations. I think this will show political commitment. We need political commitment. Of course, there might be many candidates. I don't deny it. It's only natural. But what we are pleading for is that women candidates are also very much assessed on their merit. There are plenty of good women leaders around the world that can take up this job, that have demonstrated their commitment to the United Nations, to the United Nations Charter. I do believe that having on board also civil society, large, I would say, segments of society around this idea is important, because it will send a very strong signal to the world, particularly now when we look for some ways to, as I said, to strengthen multilateralism. It will give a strong also message of inclusivity, of a new way of looking at the world in the 21st century. And I'm sure that this will also look at the challenges with this somewhat different eyes.
That's a very valuable assessment of the status quo. And I would also like to say your career is a testament to perseverance, from breaking the ceilings at UNESCO to your United Nations Secretary General candidacy. So what advice would you give to the next generation of women aspiring the lead in the multilateral arena?
Young women, the next generation, should be bolder, more, I would say, courageous, to aspire to take up positions of leadership, both within the governments, but within the multilateral system. My advice would be, first and foremost, to believe in the multilateralism, to believe in what it gives to the world, to its mandate. I think the election of a woman Secretary General also will be an incredible, strong and inspiring model for very, very women around the world, young women around the world. And because you began your question with the mentioning my own professional experience also at UNESCO, you can imagine I have visited many schools, I don't know, maybe hundreds of schools, different settings. I have met so many girls in primary and secondary. I went to universities and dropout girls that wanted to continue their education, but for different reasons they could not. And I remember once in a village in Jordan, I was meeting with the dropouts, both boys and girls, from a local school in a village. And I was asking, particularly girls, which were very, look at me with curiosity. And I was asking them what they want to be one day. And, you know, one said, I want to be a teacher. Another said, I want to be a doctor. And the third one, I still remember vividly, she looked at me and she said, you know, I never thought about that, but I want to be like you. And I thought this was the most wonderful thing that I have heard in my career. And I said, yes, of course you can. Just believe in yourself, continue your studies, move up and believe in something that is important, of giving back also good to the people.
That's such a lovely and inspiring story, and thanks for sharing that. And also, thanks for your belief in multilateralism, and also thanks for your contributions to building up this very beautiful and a very important system. Of course, we want to ask you so much questions, but time is very limited, and we thank you for your time. And let it be a female or male Secretary General for the next generation. We would certainly witness the history together. Thank you, Madame Bakova. 联合国已经年满80岁了，但选出一位新的多边主义的顶级代言人，更像是一场仍未完成的革命。也许我们最后要问自己的，不是会不会有一位女性秘书长，而是当那一天到来时，我们是否已经学会了倾听那种不同的声音？是否准备好拥抱一个更完整、更坚韧的世界？感谢大家收看今天的访谈。谁是下一任秘书长专题节目呢？将继续陪伴大家，直到我们共同见证第10任联合国秘书长的诞生。我们下次再会。